In Pakistan, its history, no leader completes or no PM completes his full term. The reason is the army wants to retain control. It's a democracy in name. Photo ops are done in Islamabad and real decisions are taken in Rawalpindi.
There's no way he can sail through this whole issue which is happening there without the support of the military.
It has to manage three other C's that we see. One is the China, second is communalism, and third is corruption. I think on all these fronts, he's been struggling, he's been failing. It's not that easy, once the military takes the decision that they want to replace or they want to get rid of someone.
Resigning as of now, he should ideally, because he should not want to be the first prime minister to go for confidence motion.
There is no way that he would wait till the final day when the no confidence motion is ultimately debated. But that is degrading for him to then be unceremoniously thrown out.
Namaste and welcome to Citti Media's Vaishali Dialogue. My name is Ratnadeep Chakraborty and I'm your host for today. As the political turmoil in Pakistan intensifies and Imran Khan's days are quite numbered, I'm delighted to be joined by three distinguished panelists today. Major General Harsha Kakar, former army personnel commissioned in the Regiment of Artillery and now a commentator on defense and strategic affairs. Dr. Shalini Chawla, Distinguished Fellow, Center for Air Power Studies and commentator on Afghanistan and Pakistan. And Dr. Nanda Kishor, Associate Professor, Politics and International Studies, Pondicherry University, and former Head of Department of Geopolitics and International Relations, Manipal University. So thank you so much for taking the time and speaking to us. I would start with General Kakar. Pakistan is once again facing a political crisis. And in a country where democratically elected leaders are regularly ousted from office, that should not be entirely surprising. But Imran Khan getting elected in 2018 without having a complete majority does point out that he has the support of the army. But what led to the sudden fallout with the army and downfall of Imran Khan?
See, in Pakistan, its history, no leader completes or no PM completes his full term. The reason is the army wants to retain control. It's a democracy in name. Photo ops are done in Islamabad and real decisions are taken in Rawalpindi. There is no dignitary who visits Pakistan and does not visit Rawalpindi because that is where the main decisions are taken. Imran Khan from day one kept saying that the army and me are on the same side, implying that he had decided to toe the line of his masters, to follow the diktat that's given to him. And like all other prime ministers before him, midway through the term, the feeling begins to get in that I am now capable enough of putting the army in its place. I'm capable enough of determining what should be done, especially on matters which concern himself and the army. And that was the takeoff point as far as the decision on the appointment of the ISI chief was concerned. He stepped on wrong toes. In addition, if you look at the last possibly a year and a half since the time the pandemic began, the Pak economy had been going down. Not a single promise made by Imran could be done. His advisors were worthless, with the bargain that it is almost heading into a debt trap. Today, Pakistan is approaching China for a rollover of $4 billion loan. So in that status, somebody has to be the scapegoat. And who better than Imran Khan? And for the opposition to unite, it's not feasible that the opposition would unite without the backing of the army. There are too many differences within the opposition. The fact that they've united, the fact that they've even decided who would be the prime minister post the removal of Imran, and a common decision taken has to be with the backing of the army. There is no two doubts about it. And with the army having openly announced it's not going to get into the political game, implies it's backing the opposition. there is no way that the army stays out of it. In fact, I recall a former Indian military advisor in the US telling me that in a seminar in the US, he ran into a Pak Lieutenant General and they were both out having a smoke. When the Pak Lieutenant General complained to him that, why do you Indian army people let the politicians get away? He said, we are a democracy and that's the way we've been and we have no role. He says, in our case, we've ensured that the Prime Minister toes our line. The day he steps a little bit out of the line, we ensure he's out. He says, that is the way we ensure that the country runs and nobody can tamper with us. And that's the way Pakistan has been since 47. And Imran is no special piece. I mean, his only credence to fame is being the captain of the Pakistan team. In fact, there are reports stating that had Imran become the chief minister of KP, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, when his party came in the majority, he would have had experience of governance prior to coming in the PM's chair. But he never did that. With the bargain that he took the PM's chair without even a day's experience in politics, in actual politics, in the chair of governance. So with the bargain, he was a novice. And as a novice, there is no way you can run 5 years, especially with the pandemic running and the economy sinking and not being able to find a way out. So he had to go. Someone has to be responsible for the mess that Pakistan is in. The army won't take the responsibility. The politicians will. And that's being done.
Dr. Shalini, will you tell us a little bit where General Kakar ended and carry on from there? And apart from that, General Kakar mentioned something about Imran Khan not in toes with the army. And in fact, we have seen he delayed the extension of General Bajwa and also appointment of Lieutenant General Anjum as the ISI chief. So did that also create certain tension between him and the army?
Thank you, and thank you very much for having me here for this critical discussion. And, you know, General Kakar raised a very, very valid point where he said that Imran Khan straight away got into the PM's role without having any experience of the governance. I think that explains quite a bit. But if we go back to 2018, what happened at that time? Obviously, military supported Imran Khan, got him into power, and he was expected to now deliver. Imran Khan came on the slogan of Naya Pakistan, came up with this whole narrative was built that he is this one man who's going to fight corruption in Pakistan. Because there is a series of leadership who had these corruption charges, and this is a guy who's clean, and he himself built that narrative that I, in my stature, did not have to be into the politics, but I am there for the people of Pakistan. So that whole narrative of a clean, selfless political leadership was built up. Military supported him, and he came into power, and now he was supposed to deliver on that account. Now 3 years passed. And in those 3 years, what we saw that both military and Imran Khan, we had these statements saying that they stand by each other. But eventually, there was nothing that Imran Khan could deliver on. The economy was failing. There was people were angry. Inflation was going up. There was major anger in the people. And what we saw is that this anger started to now reflect and was very, very noticeable in Punjab. Now, Punjab is very critical for the Pakistan army, for Pakistan itself. So, and then that's the place where 70% of the army also comes from, and also more than 50% of the members, National Assembly members, come from Punjab. Now, in Punjab, the chief minister, which Imran Khan has, is very, very weak chief minister. Maybe it was a deliberate attempt because he didn't want anybody who could maybe overpower him. That was one of the reasons, could be. And then there was this pressure on him to get the chief minister out because he was not performing. He had corruption charges on him, but Imran Khan obviously want to go on those lines, and he stayed with that. That was, I think, the beginning of all the drift between army and Imran Khan had started to seep in. And I think then another important factor also happened, that military wanted to reset ties with the United States because it's highly dependent on the West and United States, particularly for the defense equipment. And again, we had Imran Khan's narrative about independent foreign policy and his anti-West comments coming in. And this was another point where we saw the rift, between the two segments, military and the democratic leadership coming in. And then thirdly, the point that, it was discussed by the first speaker, also General Kakar, about ISI head chief. Now, Fayaz Hamid was obviously very close to Imran Khan, is very close to Imran Khan, has been a big supporter in its political role, in his whole stature, and military decided to move him away and get a ISI chief who is not so close to the political leadership, to which again Imran Khan objected and kept sitting on the order for about 3 weeks. And I think that kind of created a major rift between these two segments. And once then military decided to be now pull off the support. Now they are saying we are neutral. It is as good as not giving him any support, and it's as good as not, as good as opposing Imran Khan, because there's no way he can sail through this whole issue which is happening there without the support of the military. And military is very clear that they don't want to now, because of Imran Khan, what had also started to happen, that military's name was getting maligned, that they got this guy who's not performing on any accounts. Even with the relationship with India, if you see in the last, from the time Imran Khan came, I think we have seen the worst phase. Never in the past, any leader in Pakistan has been using such abusive and nasty language for the Indian leadership the way Imran Khan came across. So, I mean, on all fronts, we saw this massive incompetence from Imran Khan. And just coming back to the point that a guy sitting there as prime minister who had absolutely no experience of governance, and he just could not move ahead and take the right decisions. His own party had there were problems within. His allies obviously were not satisfied, and that's why we see how there is a big division within the party and allies going and talking to the opposition. So there was this series of events which happened, which kind of brought Imran Khan to the situation where we see him today and standing with this whole slogans going on, who will save Pakistan? It is Imran Khan, Imran Khan. So let's see, I mean, what's going to happen. There are going to be massive number of scenarios which can come out. But to your question about why this happened, I think that's my take.
Well, thank you so much for the detailed explanation of why Imran Khan is in such a situation. Dr. Nanda Kishor, as Shalini ji and Harsha Kakar ji was mentioning about Imran Khan's lack of experience in governance, that was one of the reasons. But one thing was for sure, that if you are in power in Pakistan, you need the army support. So was Imran Khan making the same mistake as his predecessor, like Nawaz Sharif or Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, of defying the military brass and criticizing the army? Does this also signify the breaking point of the civil-military relations in Pakistan?
Okay, thank you for having me here. One of the first and foremost thing that happened is Pakistan is known as a cyclical democracy, because one term you have a coup happening and somebody else coming in, and then subsequently again the democratic leadership coming in. That's been something that's been observed there. And this was a breakthrough we saw in the form of Imran Khan coming in. We thought probably things would change, or even people are getting better, or the civil society is getting better. But what it simply proves is that it is back to the pavilion and it's back to same. We famously, or a lot of people would say, Pakistan has to manage the 3 A's that they used to talk about: Allah, Army, and the and few other things. But now here we see it has to manage 3 other C's that we see. One is the China, second is communalism, and third is corruption. I think on all these fronts, he's been struggling, he's been failing, because first and foremost, the majority that he got was also a simple majority. That's also something that we need to recognize in the National Assembly. And now with the defections, it has gone completely disarray, but he is not ready to resign. He's not ready to give up on that front, because opposition is just waiting. They have 163. They're just waiting for an opportunity to, if the defections happen and they join the other side, I think they will have a sail through. Now, what comes back here is this love-hate relationship between the military and Imran Khan, which is a known factor. I think he just took it for granted by thinking now that the civil society will back him up, and over a period of time, the civil-military relations will tilt towards the civil side much more, and then the people will support him, at least understanding that if he meddles with them, they have the capability of bringing him down at any point of time. That's exactly what is happening now. They're engineering the whole process in a different way. Now the opposition has come together. One advantage that he had in 2018 was opposition itself was not united. Opposition itself was, each one of them was talking in different language, and he had full backing, and he ended up being there. But now it just turns out to be that he has gone a bit overboard. There was no necessity to, when Israel-Palestine was happening, he resorted to the populist measure of saying, he instigated one of the members in the parliament, and then they ended up saying that Pakistan should officially declare a jihad against Israel. And then he ended up talking in the lines of Turkey and Malaysia. In every other place, he was trying to take this extreme position where it was not to appease the military, but rather to appease the civil society, so that slowly and steadily he can get rid of the chains of the military itself. But least he understood was, as I said, the strength of the military that has a deep state in control, and that can also upset anything at any given point of time. It's only coming in public in a different manner, where the military continues to say it has no direct role to play, but it's open, it's in black and white, that we see that Imran Khan is in a very, very deep trouble. But I don't think troubles are new for him. He's used to these type of things even before, when he came into politics. Is that every now and then he is. But looking at the type of confidence that he is trying to exhibit, it is very clear that he is going to have a tough time coming ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nanda Kishor, for that brief explanation of what's happening in Pakistan. Now, let me come back to actually Janil Kakkarji. So Imran Khan stormed into the office promising to build an Islamist welfare state and not a reform-minded and growth-focused modern economy. Now we have seen Pakistan economies in doldrums with the growth rate about 0.5% in 2020. So how much of Imran Khan is to be blamed for putting the country in such a position?
See, when you come into the chair with promises of committing suicide before approaching the IMF, and the first day you're in the chair, you approach the IMF. You come in with the promise of Medina State, and then you shoot up all prices. When the IMF lays down that you cannot reduce prices, you cannot give SOPs, you give SOPs on petrol and oil. Now, or power. So when you start doing things for popularity, you are throwing the economy into a further tailspin. Today, the economy is in a very solid tailspin. As of yesterday, their foreign exchange reserves had dropped below 15 billion. At the rate at which they're dropping, and they have the highest current deficit, which is running at about 12 billion. So they are in deep, deep economic trouble. They're looking at China to bail them out with a 4 billion rollover, which may not happen. The Chinese-backed power companies are demanding their payment before they decide to go any further. Now, in this, instead of concentrating on the economic mess, you are playing cards at the local and the international level to try and boost popularity. So what are you actually doing? You're not taking hard decisions. India has gone through the same in 1991. Decisions taken were hard, but look at where we've gone today. If you read the editorial in the Dawn newspaper of today, you will find that the same mention that look at India's exports this year have touched 400 billion. And look at where Pakistan is. So within Pakistan, there is a realization that the government has not looked at the economy in the manner they should. Now, when people are starving, you don't have food to eat, you cannot afford your daily necessities. How long can you pull the country together and forward in terms of religion, in terms of popularity, in terms of playing on corruption, in terms of mentioning NRO, and anything, other than dealing with what there is? The only statement which he makes to Pakistanis to put them at ease is "Ghabrana nahi hai," but then that doesn't work. It is not going to ease the situation. The fact that the army has realized that the country is going down, it needs a change, implies that things have really gone downhill. And with Imran Khan sitting there without the right advisors, without the ability to handle the economy, it's only going down. So what's happening? A nation going economically downhill loses its ability to influence the global scenario. Today, nobody is coming to Pakistan. You look at every leader is rushing into India. No one is walking into Pakistan because with an economy which is about to crash, you are of no concern, you are of no importance in the world, you don't have a say. That is not what the army wants. The army is still looking at having a say, at least in regional matters, which it is not getting any. It's got no support in Afghanistan. The OIC statements are a waste of time because none of it impacts any of the countries. Nobody listens to them. So what has he done other than bringing Pakistan right down to the bottom? Automatically, he has to go. And the army has taken the right call now. So it's only a matter of time whether he resigns today. He resigns when they meet on Monday, that's tomorrow. Or ultimately, he decides to stay till the time the ministers, till the time the vote is held. Because as of today, there is news that there are 50 PTI ministers who've gone missing. So with that sort of a state, where does he have the numbers?
Yeah, thank you, General Kakkarji, for actually detailing out what the economic stage in Pakistan is. Dr. Kishor, if I could may ask you about what General Kakkarji was mentioning about the economic status. And at this point of time, when Imran Khan does come to the power with an anti-West message, will it be a little shameful to actually ask the bailout from IMF?
Oh, that's a very interesting question because as I mentioned before as well, that every time when they're failing, when they know that there's going to be looming trouble, that's when they reach out to the United States. United States also, till recently, it was in need of it. Now it doesn't feel it is so important. But only thing is, again, they have to play a China card and they have to play something else. And then subsequently, they have to come in because as of now, what we see as an administration in the United States is also comparatively weak. We don't see that sort of an assertive leadership there as well. We saw the exit from Afghanistan, how it has affected. Now the way they are handling the Ukraine crisis, in all the way, invariably, it simply proves that the leadership there is also weak. So it's very bleak for Imran Khan, or the scenario is bleak, or the chances are bleak for him to go and beg the United States and influence the IMF and ask them if the review committee can come and then probably bail them out, because as of now, I think it's the foreign exchange reserve is somewhere around 14.9 billion. So which is certainly not at the great time, but I also don't see that sort of a distress that has been exhibited in the Pakistan civil society. I think they've gone through much worse scenario. I don't think there is a rebellion anywhere in the civil society, but I think the political parties are trying to rake it up. The political parties are trying to use that one. See, as long as you don't have a strong, strong and a receptive civil society, this is bound to happen because they have taken it for granted. The political class as well as the military, both have taken it for granted. The society doesn't matter to them. As and when they require, they ask them to do so, and it just happens, where it has pushed even someone like Imran Khan to take a U-turn and end up even prizing India's foreign policy, right? So economics, I don't think it's even mattering a big time with regard to Pakistan as such from the civil society perspective. But yes, it is the right time that the oppositions have to pick it up, because hardly, as I mentioned, he has 155, out of which defections are happening. Others are going to go more and more stronger. Invariably, he has to come back to that. So it is largely the narrative that's been put up by the opposition as well as the military to show now that there is the other economic crisis that we have to talk about. Otherwise, I think they have been going through this invariably that way, plus or minus in the same manner. There is nothing great about it. Perhaps he had no clue where it's leading to, and that's where he is struggling to bring some sort of an order. Other than that one, I think fuel prices, if you look in, even India has this particular issue going in. Daily commodities, even India is going through that one. Only thing is our other parts, other things are much more stable. Politically, we are stable, and many other contributing factors are there. But this is a phenomena across the spectrum. Everywhere it is there. All the countries are going through. It is just been a time when they want to get rid of this guy. They're just trying to use this one. It's we don't know what has to be told from this side. It's fortunate or unfortunate, which way it has to be told. Both sides of the story continue to exist, but not good for the Pakistani people, because again, if this happens, then they may have to end up with the military leadership. That's what happens. I mentioned cyclical democracy, right? Every time this is the example that's been given to them. Why is the military taking over? They would say the political class has become corrupt. The political class has not been able to deliver governance, and the political class has been failing consistently. So it demands or it mandates us to come back and then do this one. So as long as this is possibility, we will do that and then come back is an answer that they would give.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Kishore, for pointing the specifics of the reaction of civil society. Dr. Shalini ji, I had a similar question actually. Even in today's rally of Imran Khan, we have seen around thousands of people actually present, and he strongly advocates that he had the people's support. In spite of the balance of payments hitting record this year and the Pakistan rupee losing its value since he took office, his reaction has been very characteristic when he announced subsidies for petroleum product. Why do they still have the support of the people?
Yeah, it's actually a very interesting question that you've asked, Deep. And yes, so there is a section in Pakistan, which obviously where he has his following, where he has the support system. And I think that is around his narrative build-up, which he managed to do all along, where he created this whole narrative about himself, that he's going to be the savior of Pakistan. Even now, his slogan is "Kaun bachayega Pakistan? Imran Khan, Imran Khan." So that has been the slogan that, every other politician and the opposition is also bad Muslims and I am the good Muslim. And even yesterday, you see, he tries to tickle those, chords which will bring him some favor. So amongst all this mess which he's having, which he doesn't even know that beyond a week he's going to be there in that position or not, he's talking to India, and if India kind of takes back 370, I will talk to India. It is not that he wants to talk to India, but it's just bringing that whole narrative in front of people that I have fought about this for you and I have taken this whole issue on the platform, global platform. So I think this whole narrative building has been there, which has managed to fetch him this support system. And rally basically is his power show. Is going to be, just doing it before the no confidence motion is going to kind of trying to build up that momentum. But even if he has support of people, the numbers that they are talking about, even then that's not enough to save him, because ultimately it's 172 that he needs to save himself from the no confidence motion, which is looking very unlikely that how he will manage. He's trying all the tactics, including where they have filed a reference to the Supreme Court seeking clarification on the anti-defection clause, Article 63A, where he's trying to kind of, see if the people who are moving away from the party, how they can be disqualified or de-seated, what's going to be happening. So he's trying all kind of tactics. So even though you will see that support system, which is the purpose of the rally, to kind of create that projection. And all along that, he's saying very importantly, if you would see 2-3 days back also, he says that I have a trump card, which I'm going to reveal in the rally. Where is the trump card? It's all to kind of create that apprehension and thoughts in the minds of the people that I have some secret thing going on as a support system, or the military by coming behind me. He kept on talking about that I have the ultimate weapon which I'm going to use, but nothing has come out till now. So the support system is there, I think, mainly because of the narrative buildup that he managed to create for himself. And I think there he was successful in creating the narrative about taking the cause of Islam, how he did it, about 370, how he kept on talking. So there, that narrative he tried to build up, and that support system we see. But the bigger question is that will this support on the street today that we see in rally is going to be, saving Imran Khan and his PM position? I doubt that that's going to work in his favor. I mean, anything can happen in Pakistan at the last moment, and I'm sure he and along with the speaker are going to try to delay the voting as much as they can. Currently, it should be happening on the 4th of April at latest, but we never know. And he might try to buy more time to be able to bring up some technical clauses in his favor, or trying to swing some negotiation somewhere. But this support on the streets and that we see is not going to save him from this whole episode that's going on there.
Yeah, that's very interesting that you pointed out. I have a follow-up question on that actually, and I'll come to General Kakkarji after that. One of the major charges against Imran Khan, Dr. Shalini, has been that PTI has been receiving money from prohibited foreign sources. And did that tainted Imran Khan's image of a no corruption and reformist government when his own government is charged with money laundering?
No, I mean, yes, that is one point which is now came out at a very critical juncture of 5th of January, I think 2022, when Election Commission, and this was filed in 2019 by his own party member. I think before that. And this is not the first time PTI is facing the corruption charges. We had the Pandora Papers again, where PTI was charged with the assets and other things. So, I mean, yes, it is definitely working against him. It's being used by the opposition. So also the larger, I think the significant part here is that it is indicating that even the Election Commission is not in favor of him, because that's why this whole report has come out at this point in time when the tide is completely against him. So definitely it is something which will not go in his favor for sure. And if he loses his seat, then these charges, the repercussions become very critical after he loses his position of the PM. So you will see the impact of these charges after he loses his seat of power.
Yeah, thank you so much actually for pointing that out. General Kakkarji, we all know that Faiz Hamid was basically Imran Khan's political henchman, and he wanted him to stay as the DGISI. There has a lot of rumors been floating in that Imran Khan might try the ultimate weapon of actually trying to replace the army chief, General Bajwa, as the last resort to save himself. Is that quite possible?
Not at the moment, because Bajwa's extension is still November. I think October or November. I doubt he can do any replacement before that. And Faiz Hamid is one of those who would be in line. But the fact is that the army forwards 3-4 names out of which he's supposed to choose. Without the names coming up, he cannot sack Bajwa and choose someone else. Nawaz Sharif tried to sack Musharraf, and he tried it far more intelligently by trying to block his flight from landing in Rawalpindi when he was coming back from Sri Lanka. And then we know exactly what happened. The 111 Brigade took off and Nawaz Sharif became history. So even here, if Imran Khan tries the same stunt, he knows he doesn't have a chance. Yes, if he remains in the chair till October and he gets the list of 3-4 which has Faiz Hamid's name, then he may consider it. At the same time, there are reports that Faiz Hamid has been hauled up by the army chief. So possibly now that he's on a warning, or possibly there is something between the army chief and Faiz, it's unlikely his name will come amongst those which would come up. So that is where the status is. We also don't know whether Bajwa is looking for another extension. There is talk that he possibly is. So nobody knows what the reality is. But the fact is Bajwa knows that there is close proximity between Imran and Faiz. And he wants to ensure that he doesn't exploit. Not only Bajwa, the other generals are feeling the same. So as a collegiate, they're not looking at Faiz Hamid being a front runner because there are people far more senior. So the possibility of that happening is not too good. It's not very high, very, very low.
Yeah. Dr. Nanda Kishor, what do you think about the CM question thing? Do you think will he try the stunt?
He may try a backdoor this thing because he lost out on that front. So again, he may just to save his seat for a while, saying that he will be subordinate and he will continue to put his head down. He may do that as a last resort, but we have seen at least for a while, it's been observed since at least last 3 decades that it's not that easy. You know, once the military takes the decision that they want to replace or they want to get rid of someone, it's very, very difficult to do something like that. There are 2 ways of looking at it. Either one to harm Bajwa and then try out some stunt, and which is not going to happen as of now. It's very difficult. The other one is to bring him on board in the sense you submit yourself and then say, I'll be the Imran Khan of 2018 when he wanted me to come in, and I'm going to submit myself and be a good boy. That's another possibility. But as of now, it looks very bleak. To me, that's not a possibility. I think they've already loaded the gun. It's only the time to shoot. I don't think there is anything like pull out the bullet and then take it somewhere else. I don't think that's a possibility.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point that you have raised. In fact, and moving to Dr. Shalini, this question is a common question to all the 3 panelists. Actually, I'll start with Dr. Shalini because you mentioned about Imran Khan approaching the Supreme Court and delaying the procedure for a bit. Now, the big question that arises here, will Imran Khan resign? And we saw he didn't at the rally today. Or the speaker will actually go with the procedural stuff to the Supreme Court and buy out some time for Imran Khan so that he can figure out an alternative.
Resigning, I mean, there was a lot of news about the fact that, you know, he's been asked to resign. We also read some reports that army is asked to resign him, to ask him to resign after the OIC summit. That didn't happen. So I think that has been there in the air, and maybe it's the opposition tactic which has been there to exert more pressure and create that environment. I personally don't feel that he will resign. He will play till the last ball. He's a cricketer. And, you know, yes, what the delaying process we have been seeing from the beginning, you know, this whole thing is the session had to be convened on 21st. It was then convened on 25th. Nothing happened on that day. And then finally, tomorrow we see what's going to be happening. And within 7 days maximum, the voting should ideally take place. But there is one aspect which is pointing that there would be the ruling party would say that they would wait for the final decision from the Supreme Court on the Article 63A to be, and then proceed with the voting. So that may give them more time to be able to now explore more options which he might be having in his mind, out of which one could be to talk to the opposition and ensure them that he's going to be the early elections and this can be settled. But he's too arrogant to do that, to go and negotiate with the opposition. He doesn't look, his character that we have seen till now, he doesn't look. Other could be that he strikes some kind of, again, negotiation with the military, and they support him, and that's the ultimate weapon. But it looks unlikely that the military is going to support him now. And third is obviously that he tries maybe to win he sails through this whole no confidence motion by some means, and he manages to retain his position. But then what will happen? This whole turmoil is not going to settle down, so it will continue. The pressures are going to be continuing to him. And other is that he might actually just lose. So these are the whole, probable scenarios that can happen. But resigning as of now, he should ideally, because he should not want to be the first prime minister to go confidence motion. But as of now, it is looking unlikely. I think he's going to explore all his options before taking that call. But let's see, tomorrow is going to be a significant day which will tell us the future course, some indications of the future course, what's going to be happening now in Pakistan.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point of Shalini ji you have made, that he cannot continue without the support of the army. General Kakkar ji, this is the same question that I want to ask you. Now, when you lose the support of the army and the army has a life jacket, how long will it just take for Imran Khan to stay in power and delay the proceeding? But because ultimately he has to resign or he will lose the vote, as Dr. Shalini ji was mentioning.
See, he's going to wait for possibly another few days. Tomorrow is going to be the discussion, the tabling of the motion. The moment he realizes that his allies have jumped the ship, then there is no way he can muster the figures that he needs. That is the time he has no choice but to walk out rather than be thrown out. So what he's talking about, the last ball, is to wait till he's confirmed on the allies. Today, one or two have already made the announcement. His own ministers, even if the Supreme Court delays the decision or they try to delay the decision, that won't make a difference once his allies have abandoned ship. So the question is, how many allies have abandoned ship? There are rumors that a few of them have already done so. So once the figures are clear and that the opposition has the numbers needed, there is no point even attempting to wait till the day when he is unceremoniously thrown out. Then possibly he would walk out saying that I have been made a scapegoat, play the card of the victim, and possibly continue to gain support from the local public with the forthcoming elections or the next time they're going to be held. But there is no way that he would wait till the final day when the no confidence motion is ultimately debated, because that is degrading for him to then be unceremoniously thrown out. So I think tomorrow or day after, within the next 2-3 days, once the allies' positions are clear, is when he'll take that step.
Yeah, that's a very interesting analysis, General Kakkar ji. Now, coming to Dr. Nanda Kishor ji, the same question with an addition that, as General Kakkar ji was mentioning initially, that 50 of his MLAs are missing. The numbers are clearly not with him, right?
Yes, see, the thing is, they have gone to Sindh House and not all of them have been played. There is some amount of anger that's been showed where he's trying to instigate the PTA members to go on street or pull these people out. I think India also, we saw a lot of state assemblies going through this one. Apart from what Shalini ji mentioned about 63A, there is also a provision which is 62(1)(f) actually, which is like this will be a disqualification for life. Actually, this is also there in the Pakistan's constitution, which is very interesting. That is also something that he's trying to invoke, where he's requesting the Supreme Court to go on a daily basis and talk about. This is like the whip of the party, issuing the whip, where our chief whip is issuing a whip and asking that even you abstain from it, that is also to be considered under. In the sense, once the whip is issued, you are expected to vote in favor of the party. So even if you abstain, forget voting against or voting in favor of the opposition or against this thing, any of those things. It is, if not voting for the party will lead to that sort of disqualification, is what they are trying to look at. So they're trying to invoke both the provisions and see to it that these fellows will feel threatened. So some of the members have actually gone public in few other places. They have said that Imran Khan should not do that to us, because their fear is also, okay, as of now, they're giving confidence that let's go for a no confidence motion. But then subsequently, what if even the opposition is not united? If they're unable to form the government, and those of them who defect by mistake, if or in just the luck of Imran Khan, if the Supreme Court gives a verdict like that, they'll be disqualified for life. So some of them are fearing that as well, what will happen to their future. So they are trying to do this backdoor entry, or they're trying to contact different channels and see to it to influence PTA and tell a few important people within not to invoke this particular article. They're telling that it's not meant to be that one. We are all concerned about our own society. We are concerned about civil society. We're concerned about economy, because the leader is not performing. It's not that they're against the party or against the government, but they're against Imran Khan because he's not able to deliver. We need a leadership change. That is something that they are trying to exhibit every now and then. But as it has been mentioned by a few of our our other panelists as well, it is unlikely that any of those things will be taken up and the Supreme Court will go against some of the intentions of the army. That's highly unlikely to happen.
Yeah, that's a very interesting analysis that the Supreme Court won't be going against the intention of the army. I have a follow-up question for you, Dr. Nanda Kishor, and this will be a common question for all the panelists. If he does resign, will he announce a caretaker government or will we see an early election?
No, the early election is not in his hand anyway, because either before the no confidence motion, something has to be done, and then that is the only possibility. Again, he trying to take confidence of the president, that also has to happen. Is the same system that was being followed. As of now, the only person who's playing to his tune is the speaker. He is the one who's not trying to be neutral, on whom all the opposition are together gunning and saying that when he has gone like a sycophant, he's been trying to do certain things and he's been delaying. But apart from that, nobody is able to do. So that means it's a layered approach where he also has to convince the president, which is not going to be easy. So he himself cannot call off for an early election or anything of that sort. First and foremost, he has to survive. If he survives, then probably to prove, let's say he, like a gladiator, that he has survived. Now he wants to prove with the civil society that he would come back strongly, or he would come back to show that who is the real person that who has to lead and all those things. That's a long story. That's not going to happen. To cut it short, it's not easy. There is nothing called caretaker that he can bring in. Other way he can also buy some time and save his grace is that before the no confidence happens, something he has to try out, like the way Indian Parliament has done before, where the Prime Minister gracefully says that, okay, if you want my head to be put down or head to roll, let it happen, but somebody from the party can happen. There can be a number 2, and then he will continue to just be a parliamentarian, and then he can still run the show in the background. That is something that he can try out like a circus, but I don't know to what extent he will be able to do that. One will his ego, as Dr. Shalini was mentioning, that he is someone who is experienced in cricket and he will not give up till the last ball, right? Death overs, he will not give up on that one. So there are all possibilities that he will stick to it because he's a bit overconfident of himself. That is what we saw. And he's not going to give up anytime sooner, but forcefully it may end up is my submission.
Yeah, thank you so much for the analysis. General Harsha Kakar.
See, basically, there is no choice. And as far as the Supreme Court is concerned, it's going to follow the diktats which flow from Rawalpindi. There is no second choice. The opposition has already decided who's going to form the government. So once the no trust motion is cleared, you've got to realize that the no trust motion is against the government. So the PTI government goes. The opposition is already firmed in that there will be a unity government under Sheikh, Sharif, which will then call for election shortly. So that decision has already been taken. So there is no way out that he's going to continue. It is evident he's going to go. The question is when. Whether he decides today, whether he decides tomorrow, whether he decides for the last few days, or he decides once he's thrown out.
Yeah, thank you so much again. Dr. Shalini?
No, I agree with General Kakar, what he said, that, you know, all the instructions will be coming from Rawalpindi, though they keep on saying that we are neutral. But neutrality here means that they are not supporting Imran Khan. That's neutrality here. In that. So what I feel is obviously, you know, that opposition will be definitely very keen for an early election. They would want that. And that's pretty much the path. I mean, that's one path that we are all seeing, that, you know, they will form and Shehbaz Sharif will come into power and we will have an early election. But that's one probability which is right now weighing heavy. But let's see what happens. And I think this about overconfidence in Imran Khan, which Dr. Nanda Kishor is saying, I think it's a really good point, because all along these last 3 years, what we have seen, that, you know, he has that tendency of getting away with everything. So maybe when this whole mess started, calling Osama bin Laden a martyr, standing, and then his wrong statements about the geography, and then in a few days back, actually, he called a military animal, and he said that animals are neutral and not people are not neutral, and then he tried to rectify it, that I was not meaning that, I was meaning something else. So all this along, he has just got into that whole phase about getting away with everything and using that kind of statements and just moving on. And maybe he felt that overconfidence that this also he will get away, but this time it doesn't look like that he's going to just get away.
I do agree that this time it's unlikely that he will get away. He's pushed into one corner, and whether he will resign or he won't, only time will tell. But one thing is for sure, that he won't be the last prime minister to find his hold on power sleeping away. Thank you so much for all of you for taking your time in speaking to us. It's really an honor and a pleasure to host this. Namaste and have a great day ahead.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.